Hey you guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. We have here is Bruce Lee versus Mike Tyson. And one is bigger than the other. Size versus bigger guy versus smaller guy. Everybody's uh, like dream of trying to figure out who will win. Bigger guy was this a skill, right? A lot of conversary. A lot of people uh, could Bruce Lee win and get Mike Tyson in a fight, or perhaps he would. It, it was the same question when they asked, could he win a straight fight against Muhammad Ali, or a fight, a match, or a professional bout. This is a little cartoon. Now, uh, it really depends who what do you think, as far as fights go, is could Bruce usually use his JKD and beat someone as big as Bruce in a competitive commotion, right? He got quick legs and quick hands, and that a lot of people who spar with him know that he can handle himself pretty well. Chuck Norris, he sparred with Bruce Lee, uh, said this, that he believes that Bruce could handle himself in a MMA fight, and a fight. If somebody was fighting him in the high, he can fight at the highest level. That's Chuck Norris, right? That's what Chuck Norris was saying in one of his videos. He said that Bob Wall, another person who competed, says Bruce Lee kicks. He hits hard like a mule. He hits pretty hard. And there was a scene uh, in the Dragon where when Bob Wall get hit Bruce Lee. Supposedly that kick was real. Now everybody should know the scene I'm talking about. If you don't, I'd be happy to show that scene real quick. Uh, in a minute. Just what I can do is I can show you uh that kick real quick, and on the commercials, you know. So we get here. That famous kick right there. Just go back a little bit. Look at that beautiful side kick. That's awesome. Anyways, the point I was making, that kick was supposed to be really hard. Here, come here, babe. Really, you got it? Okay. So, anyways, go to the ball wall. He was able to kick. He kicked him. If you saw that video, he kicked him pretty far outward, knocking that his on his backside, breaking his ribs and somebody's arm. Right? He hit him that hard. So, sorry, Bruce Lee did have a amateur fight. He won one boxing match when he was 18 years old. Uh, now you can look this up, and I'll do it for you. To read that here. Just uh, let's see here. Let me go to. I don't want the image. So he fought um a record. He never fought in professionally, but he did fight another senior. See here. Toward this is Bruce Lee amateur boxing record box. Let's see here. Let's look at this. This is 1958. Uh, I says I had read somewhere at the age of 17. Bruce Lee had been the amateur inter-school boxing champion of Hong Kong back in 1958 with an undefeated record of 23 wins, 0 draws, and 0 losses. With the undefeated, Bruce Lee represented at La Salle College, reported after knocking out his first three opponents and won and round one. He had defeated Gray Elms in the finals, who had been champion for previous 3 years. To win the title in the title anymore with infamous concerns. So I really don't know if that's true or not. I did have seen where I read that the Bruce Lee had only one um match that he fought, and he was 1-0, and that was it. Um, the story goes that a kid, so his high school kid, the high school kid, challenged Bruce to a fight, and the coach was like, "Well, you need to fight in the ring. Like, you get this settle your dispute in a match in a match." So so they boxed, and Bruce won. Okay. Um. So there's that. So he um. Th- but that doesn't really tell you. I mean, here's the thing. Keep in mind, he had that one boxing match and won, or maybe but he did have 23 fights and won. I don't know. There's um not a whole lot that get back that can back that up. Or don't. There's not a lot of evidence. You will have to find evidence in that for the find that school and find the logo. Go dig into the records of that and look at it. So uh, but we have some kind of idea of that he had competed, uh, in a boxing match. At least a boxing match that we don't know of. So, but ever then, you gotta think he had to fight somebody who's around his weight class. A lot of your boxing matches or any type of sport fighting has a class. Uh, it wasn't until UFC one when they were were when the first time ever when people was able to fight people who was outclassed out not outclassed but there's no weight class, right? uh Royce Gracie, which everybody should know who he is. We know that he fought in the UFC one, uh, and he won. He won it. The only one that gave him a hard time was the Ken Shamrock, but he did beat Ken Shamrock. He had a draw and came back, and they had a rematch, and Ken Shamrock also, I think. Uh, but you gotta think Shamrock was also bigger than Royce Gracie. Royce Gracie was a small guy who was able to submit. So Bruce Lee had some knowledge of grappling. So if Bruce was able to get Tyson to the ground, because of the fact Tyson doesn't have any at least I'm assuming, I'm not trying to assume, uh, if this was a MMA bout, possibly Bruce would definitely have an advantage of taking him to the ground and try to go for submissions. Although his submissions are white belt level, even someone who has no level of understanding of grappling would have a hard time. And Bruce probably could come out with a submission. Now Bruce would try to stand and fight against Tyson. Tyson probably have more of an advantage because, especially if he connects a punch to Lee. Bruce Lee is only human, so if he got connected by a punch, Bruce would be in trouble. I'm not saying that Bruce Lee would win a loss. It's just it would be really hard for Bruce to win. Because he would actually absolutely would have to use all his tools to beat Mike Tyson. Uh, he would have absolutely had to use all the keep. He would have to absolutely have to keep out of his range motion. So you gotta think, Tyson gonna have a longer reach than Bruce Lee. There's no telling how hard Bruce Lee actually could hit. We know he was able to hit someone who's about 180 pounds and knock him with a side kick and knock him backwards. Uh, uh, if that kick you saw on my phone that he was able to knock Paul off his ass with that side kick, broke his ribs, and have enough force for him to go back into the crowd, the people that was behind him, break somebody else on, because of the force of that Paul flew back into, right? So if that kick was really real, I mean, it wasn't. If that kick was not used with a string and he pulled him back, and Bruce Lee actually did generate that much force, that's telling me he got strong legs. Now, if he that which means he probably could do the same to Mike Tyson. If he is able to land a hard blow to sidekick, he would be able to knock him back. At least if he doesn't make him fall on his ass, he would be able to generate enough power to break his ribs. Which won't stop his fight. This fight, people, a lot of boxers have fight through broken ribs, broken hands. So it's possible that Tyson will still uh, continue onward in the fight. Bruce Lee again will have to get come around and take his leg out from underneath him. He used all his long range weapons against Tyson. Uses speed, uses knowledge and how and uses knowledge, knowing how to uh, use the footwork, knowing how to use his footwork, knowing how to really get in and out and really outbox a boxer. Right? He would have to know how to fight better, as Icy Mike would say. Right? He would have to use his footwork better, and because we can see in the movies he had especially in the one-on-one matches, one-on-one fights, that he has the understanding how to fight, especially when you see the fight scene between him and Chuck Norris. We have that visualization say yes, Bruce he has he has that concept on understanding how to defend himself combatively, right? So it's we also know that he sparred a lot. Although the video sparring footage of him doesn't seem like he has to some people, but if you look at Jim Kelly, Chuck Norris, all the people who has sparred with him, who has worked with Bruce Lee during the time he was alive, will tell you different, right? He will tell you that yes, he's that good, right? But again, it's really hard to say, well, is he really that good? You know. But like he said, if I tell you I'm that good, I'm boasting. But if I tell you I'm not good, you know I'm lying. So, um, and that's what the quote he said in his interview, right? The last interview before he goes the flow like water. But I don't know. I mean, if the tales of Bruce maybe being able to hit a bag that's 350 pounds, 300 pounds or something like that. I think Brody said it was 700 pounds. I think when I did my research, it was 300 pounds, not 700. But if it's so, man, think about it. Your average heavy bag or is 100, but some between 70 pounds and 100 pounds. That's the heaviest you usually you can see. You can buy the heaviest you can buy is 100 pounds. but when I saw a picture of Bruce Lee's heavy bag, man, that thing was ginormous. It was huge. I did a video of it. Actually, no, wait. Actually, no, wait, not a video. I have a writing. It's in my book. My book that I'm writing right now. I haven't published this one yet, but it's massive. It's a massive bag here. I'm gonna also show it to you in a second. As soon as I find the because it's under the myth of Bruce Lee, and I think I would like to read it when I put it up. So once I finally publish this book, uh, it's I think you guys will like it because I do go into talking about uh, Bruce Lee in there. I do my last book I talk about Bruce Lee and all that. So I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, but I also don't think he would. I don't think he would. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't like this as well. Bruce Lee would lose for sure to Mike Tyson, right? But also, uh, like I don't know. He lost to Holyfield eventually, but it bit so but he's there. But we um okay. I got okay, baby. I'm getting it. I promise. Just give me 2 seconds, okay? What is up? Damn. Here's punches. That punch there. I should be almost there. Frank Dukes. There we go. This is it. Because this is the. So end up talking about Frank Dukes. And after that, I would end up talking about Bruce or before. Maybe I'll talk about Bruce Lee at first. Then Bruce. Oh, there we go. There we go. Here's this. Here's the bag right here. This O1. That's Bruce's bag here. And this picture, the one in red, that's his what he upgraded. Shit. I don't know what happened in there. So the red bag is the 300 pounder quotability. There was so Bruce Lee's heavy bag of 1964. That's massive. Like, you imagine hitting something that big? Right? And this is where it's like, percent, the values of 175 in my movie would be 110 pounds more than Bruce Lee has quick hands just as Bruce does. According to Dan and Sento, Bruce Lee trained on a 700-pound heavy bag. My research was that it was 300 pounds heavy bag instead of 700, which is 400 pounds difference, which is a big difference right there. And there is bags which is 70 to 100 pounds. However, the massive bag does. However, the massive bag does exist. So yeah, they were saying that Bruce Lee was able to hit as hard as Muhammad Ali, right? He was able to produce as much uh, power force in his punch, okay, in blows as Muhammad Ali. It was just crazy to think about it. So that's even Bruce Lee had his doubts whether or not he could he was whether or not he would be able to beat Muhammad Ali when Muhammad Ali was a champ in that time period, right? Bruce said, and he said he has his ginormous American hand versus Bruce's tiny Chinese hands, right? You can look at Tyson's hand versus Bruce's hand as well. There's a significant uh, difference in significant significantly difference in Tyson and Bruce Lee's physique as well. Mike Tyson is about 150 pounds, possibly 100, 200, excuse me, 280 pounds, 250, between 250 to 280. While Bruce Lee, at his heaviest, was 150. At his lightest, 125. Right? At his lightest. So if he was at his lightest, let's say he was 125, you he's over 100 pounds heavier than Bruce Lee. Right? Uh, he's over 100 pounds. It's over 160 pounds or something like that. Let's do the math real quick. Um, just like if he was 280, Mike Tyson, if he was 280, and we got him at his lightest 125, that's 155 pounds difference, but that Tyson has. So Tyson being that big, listen, his force, hit just his punching force will be times. So if he's 280, we multiply that 2 times. He'll be hitting around 560 to 800 pounds. Between 560 to possibly even up to 1120 force, right? To 120, 100, 100, 100, 100, 1120, 1120 pounds of force, right? Now let's say Bruce Lee, he's 125. It's the highest force he'll be hitting. Let's first let's double it. That's 250 pounds of force. So if he was able to move the 300 pound bag with a kick or punch, so to move something that's 300 pounds, you have to hit harder than 250. Let's say he's the highest of what he had. What I just said. The highest he might be able to do is 625 pounds of force. Right? 625 pounds of force. This is a lot of force for a small guy. Right? If he's able to produce 625 force, Tyson still got him beat by 495 pounds of force in him. So that means Tyson is hitting, still would be hitting Bruce Lee a lot harder than Bruce Lee would hit Tyson, right? Uh, Tyson would definitely has that strength of power, uh, you know. Uh, well, I think Tank Abbott was his. So take it. Let's the thing about this. Take Abbott power force, punching force was 900 pounds. 900 pounds, right? So if Bruce Lee was able to able to hit 650, that's still about what 250, 350, something like that difference. Let's say Tank Abbott, who has again 900 pounds of force, if he was able to produce 925, he's 275 pounds of force difference of Tank Abbott's. So I'm assuming he has to be around Tank Abbott's hits around between 800 to 900 pounds of force. Bruce Lee, if somehow can manage to lose half of that, that's pretty damn good for a small guy. And I'm gonna leave it as that. I'm not. I mean, it's really hard to say. Well, because they're both humans. At the end of the day, they're both humans. They're both all able to be knocked out. And it'd be a huge upset if somebody small as Bruce Lee knocks out as someone as big as Mike Tyson. There's been stories where, even me, where people like when they fought people on the street who was bigger than the other person, and they was able to knock out that person who was bigger than them. A lot of people say, well, size does matter, but it matters if they both fighters on in the sport level. One of the guys said, well, oh, you know how to just really punch. If Tyson actually did karate, he also knows to kick. He just don't kick in boxing, right? Uh, but because I don't know has the mindset. He's mindset is going in. I'm going to throw in. He's quick. I was watching videos ever to this day. In his 50s, Tyson was able to move as fast as he was back in the day. He still has it. If Bruce was still alive today, Bruce would be in his 80s. Bruce Lee would be 30 years older than Tyson. Right? So this thing, if you think about that one now too. Now if you think about this too, though, if we go back in time and Bruce Lee was still in his prime, and Tyson was still in prime. If he still be 30 years older than Tyson, right? That means if Bruce Lee was still alive in the 90s, Tyson was a 19 years old kid, and let's say if he was like 19, 18 years old when he started boxing professionally. Let's say if he fought a 20-year-old, we add 30 years. If because 20 plus 30, Bruce Lee would be 50 years old fighting a 20-year-old Tyson. So with that said, folks, okay, you gotta think also age comes in to play as well. What comes in play as well. Thank you for watching. I am out of here.